and welcome. My name is Chris from ChristopherHole.com, and welcome to this week's whiteboard presentation where we're going to be talking about 3 simple components of health. I do want to try and make this as simple as I can because I know a lot of information out there can be slightly contradicting, it can be slightly confusing because it's saying one thing one week and then the complete opposite the next. So I want to try and build a foundation, and that's kind of how I want you to use this. This isn't going to give you all the answers, but it's going to start to build a picture. So if you watch more and more of my videos, I'll be able to relay back to this one, and it will start to build a greater perspective and context around what health is. I'm going to be looking at 3 points. We're going to talk about, first of all, we're going to define health. Then we're going to talk about the 3 components along with what do we need to do to achieve greater health. So we're going to be talking about the 3 components within that question of what do we need to do. Before we get into that, I will just quickly mention my social media platforms. So you've got Twitter at Christopher Hole, you've got Facebook, Christopher Hole Training, you've got Instagram, which is at Christopher Hole. So please do come along there, like and follow. I'm sharing more information about health, fitness, exercise, diet, mindset, attitude, behaviors, habits, all sorts of stuff. Alternatively, you can come to the website and you can go to christopherhole.com/workshops. If you're in the Bristol and Bath area, click on the link 6-week health coaching program. You'll be taken to another page where you can purchase a ticket to come to that program, which is a 6-week program with me at the gym. It's a group program. It's not necessarily like physically practical, but there's a lot of practical tasks that you need to do within the course or between each of the sessions, and you can come and get involved and obviously get more questions answered from me specifically. I will be answering obviously questions in this that you may have, but I don't know what they are specifically. The content that I do share may just answer those questions. But do please use this as a foundation. It won't hold all the answers, but it will start you on the road. If you do come to the workshop, that this is the sort of the foundation to that. Everything that I talk about on that workshop is built on top of this little presentation. Obviously, I will be recapping it, but it will only be a recap at the workshop. So what we have with the 3 simple components of health is thinking, moving and eating. Thinking is at the top because it's the most important one, and then you've got eating and moving below that, because if you can get the thinking right, the eating and the moving just fall into place. Now, as a start point, quickly define what health is, or what I've come to understand as health being, which is the optimal function of all body systems. So all of your body, or your one body, is made up of many different systems, and all those systems have to be working optimally to be able to experience greater health. If one is being overworked, or if one is being underworked for an extended period of time, then you're going to experience ill health at some point. And if that's for a prolonged period of time, then you're going to experience ill health for a prolonged period of time. So what we need to be able to do is to give our body greater health is to try and optimize the function of all those systems. Now, how do we do that? We do that through our actions. Because if we can think better, eat better, and move better, then our body will basically follow along with that. The systems of our body will sort of move in the wake of our actions and intentions, if that makes sense. So what we do also have to understand is that it's always moving. We're never healthy 100% of the time for all of our life. There's going to be times where we fluctuate into health, and there's going to be times where we fluctuate out of it. If you want to bring a greater context to it, most of ill health is a part of health anyway. For example, if you get a common cold, generally that's the body detoxing itself. So that detoxification process just makes you feel groggy for a period of time. But that's a completely normal function if you've just had a heavy weekend out drinking and eating, if you will. Now, that's a completely normal process for your body to go through. Is if you overload it with food and overeat, then it's going to give you symptoms of grogginess, whatever those symptoms may be, to be able to detoxify, to get it back into its health, if that makes sense. So with regards to our actions, I've sort of categorized it in 3 bullet points. We need to be moderate, we need to be consistent, and they need to be of good quality for us to experience more health than ill health, and for that health to be extended over a period of time. Now, I do need to word that correctly, because you're never in the middle of health being perfectly healthy, and then you're never perfectly ill healthily, if that makes sense. You're always moving. So just because you feel good doesn't mean that your body is healthy. You may feel good, but you're drinking lots of bad food and drinking lots of bad drinks and eating lots of bad food. So you'll be experiencing it, but then a lag time will happen, be it a couple of hours or maybe a day, and then you'll feel the feedback from your body of those actions that you've just taken. So it won't happen immediately. There will be a lag time to it. So we've got to make sure that we understand that. Just because we feel good and feel healthy doesn't mean we are healthy. So in these 3 components, eating, moving, and thinking, we need to be moderate. So we need to eat moderate amounts of food. Now, for the different sizes in people, that they are going to be different amounts. But people don't necessarily understand how much that is. But it does need to be moderate amounts of food. It then needs to be taken in consistently throughout the day. Now, that might mean, because of the way your day's organised, having 6 meals. Or it might mean having 3 meals. It doesn't really matter how many meals you have per day, as long as there's a consistency to it. Because if we come down into here and we have extreme diets where we eat extreme types of foods, and then they're done at a random time, there's no consistency. Like, a few days a week we don't eat breakfast, and then we do eat breakfast, and then we don't eat breakfast, and then we do eat breakfast, and it's all a bit all over the place, and then we're not eating our main meal, and we're missing lunch, and it all becomes a bit haphazard. That's going to increase your likelihood of ill health. So if we are eating a moderate amount of food consistently, and then of a good quality, so we're not just eating the cheapest and most processed food available, we're eating a good quality food, we're going to give ourselves the better chance to experience greater health. If we are moving moderately throughout the day, or if we're being consistent with our movement, and it's of a good quality, so we're using good posture and good technique as we move throughout the day, we're going to give ourselves a greater opportunity and a greater probability of being healthier and minimizing our risk of injury. And finally, if we can think moderately, which means being more objective, which means being less biased, so being more objective, seeing positives in negatives and negatives in positives, that will calm your mind, which will calm your physiology. And then if that's consistent throughout the day and of a better quality, again, you will experience greater health for a longer period of time. If we have extreme diets, and we do that randomly, and it's low quality foods, we're going to increase our experiences of ill health. If we move in extremes, so if we're sat down all day and then we go and pummel ourselves in the gym for 1 or 2 hours, and it's random and we don't keep to a consistent pattern of it, again, we're going to increase our risk of injury. We're going to increase our risk of ill health. And if it's poor quality, so if you're in poor postures and you're using poor technique with all your movement and your exercise, then again, you're going to increase your risk of injury. And it's the same with thinking. If you've got very biased thinking and you're very extreme in all positive and then all negative, then again, that's going to increase the stress on the mind, which will increase the stress on the body. So I'm talking very simple principles. But if we can start applying these principles into each area of life, what we can start to do is we can start to moderate the amount of stress that we feel, which then starts to moderate the amount of ill health that we experience. And then that helps us stay in health better. Because as I've put here with the diagram, when you get your thinking moderate, consistent, and of good quality, you're moving of moderate, consistent, and good quality, and you're eating moderate, consistent, and good quality, you'll tend to find yourself in this health shade or this health area of the diagram. as you start to move in extreme thinking, you'll start to pull yourself up here, or extreme moving or exercise, you'll start to move down here, or extreme diets, you'll move down here. So it's about trying to optimize all those three components, which will then optimize, which brings us full circle, which will then optimize the function of all the body systems, creating better health, if that makes sense. So what I've tried to describe here, and we've kind of gone full circle, is I've mentioned the definition of health. I've then said it's always moving, so you're always going to be slightly gravitating out here, but you've got to pull it back, or gravitating out here, but you've got to pull it back, gravitating out here, or you've got to pull it back. If you don't do it consciously, your body will do it unconsciously and make you do it. So it can give you that illness to let you know you've pigged out and you've been eating or drinking too much. It will let you know that in January, and it does to most people. If you overeat for a weekend, then it will let you know that. If you don't move and you just sit for days on end, then it will let you know. So it's about being able to do that consciously by keeping a journal, like I've described before, keeping a journal and making sure you're keeping yourself in that range. And if you do find yourself drifting, you can pull yourself back consciously, because it is always moving. So we need to be moderate, consistent, and make sure it's of good quality in the ways we think, eat, and move. So hopefully that's sort of set you up and given you a good foundation for any further information that you take from me. As I mentioned, if you're in the Bristol and Bath area, do come to that workshop, the 6-week coaching program, because I'll be building on top of this. And if this has brought up any questions for you, I'll be able to answer them at there, because we've got 2 sessions on thinking, 2 sessions on eating, and 2 sessions on moving. So we'll be able to cover all of those. You'll be able to go away, apply what you've done, then come back the next time and ask more questions. And then that will continue after the 6 weeks, because hopefully I would have given you some principles and some guidance on how to manage that yourself. And then if you want to work with me on a more ongoing basis, then we can talk about that there, but that's for another time. So please do come along to the workshops. If you're a bit further afield, please do come along to the social media, which is Twitter at Christopher Hole, or Facebook, Christopher Hole Training, or Instagram at Christopher Hole. So many thanks for listening. Many thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful. My name is Chris from ChristopherHole.com. I'll speak to you in the next whiteboard.